Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Um, Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth Caregiver Conversations for the series. And if you're interested in more of these, you can check them out by the links in the YouTube description below or on the CCYN YouTube channel or website video content section, which are also linked in the video description. So for this Caregiver Conversation, I'm very excited to have Nanushan Krishnapillai, or Nanu, here with me. He will be answering some of my questions about what it has been like to be a caregiver to me through my IBD journey. So thanks for joining us today, Nanu.
No problem.
Do
Thank you
you
for having
still
me.
actually, tangent, do you still usually go by Nanu to people, or is your like public adult persona Nanushan?
No, I still introduce myself as Nanu at work and stuff, but some people in my life have started to call me Gnanu, which is like the real official way
Right.
of saying my name.
I
Which,
think I think the GN sound
yeah,
that is in Tamil. I don't
yeah,
know that I can. Is it Nya or
yeah. It's like
Nya?
lasagna, same
Okay.
sound.
Okay. All
Lasagna
right.
is the same
Okay.
GN
I'm
sound.
gonna try calling you
You don't have
Nyanu
to because
for the rest of
people
this
think,
video.
no, no, please don't. Please, people think that means, oh, I prefer that. No, I still like Nanu.
Okay.
Been my name for like 30 years.
Yeah, I
So
guess. Yeah,
it's
identity
fine.
is funny like that. Anyways.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Um,
happy with both. I like both.
okay. So I guess my questions today will all be about IBD, which is inflammatory bowel disease, which includes Crohn's and colitis. So I guess my first question is, what have you learned about IBD throughout your caregiver journey? So in this case, being my friend, and what did you
Yeah.
know about it before, and what did you learn through the journey of like supporting
Yeah.
me, just, kind of being there for me?
I like wrote some notes down, so I'm just looking at that. But yeah, I thought IBD, like if before you had gotten it or shared anything about it, I would have heard IBD and I would have been like irritable bowel or something. Like I would have thought it was similar to IBS or something like that. But yeah, after learning more about Crohn's and colitis and stuff, and just your experiences, I don't think I would still say I know a lot about the disease, like in terms of how it's functioning or like a biological sort of point of view. But I do understand more about sort of, oh, you have very different energy levels and like you've described the sort of spoon model of like ability to me, which I've never heard before that sort of conversation. And that's like a very like popular thing now. I feel like you were talking to me about this a long time ago, before sort of these ideas were common. So that sort of thing, all the different like treatments and medications that you've like done and tried and sort of there's like no like one solution to this thing and this one thing leads to all these other things and it's like yeah, it's
Yeah.
sort of like a cluster constellation of like issues that come up.
Yeah,
That's
I
sort
guess
of
I
my
didn't
understanding.
realize that the spoon theory became more popular, but I do feel like pre and post COVID, there's been a shift in how people see these things, and in some ways, I think with long COVID and things like that, or even during COVID when people became really, really sick, people started thinking a lot, I think, about health and disability and how
Yeah,
those things are so tied together. And then
yeah,
also, a lot of people in the disability community talked about how during COVID, a lot of things were made to be accessible based on technology that people in that community had been using it for a long time.
or
So,
had been like
yeah,
asking for a long time. That
sorry?
like
Yeah,
people have been
exactly.
asking for these things too, of like workplaces accommodating people in these ways, and they weren't doing it until yeah, it affected everyone. Yeah,
Yeah, and I also heard like once people started getting better, those things also started being pulled back as well. So, yeah, that's been really interesting to see kind of the ties between those things.
yeah,
So, and yeah, and then also totally for the treatments and like the solutions, it's just not it's not a one-stop shop kind of thing. It's like you have to
no,
try all these very different things.
Yeah, to be
Um,
honest, sorry to jump in.
no, yeah, go ahead.
Um, No, I want to just expand on what you just said. Yeah, like I think being a friend, I've learned a lot more just about disability and even illnesses, like what that's actually like, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's not this one-stop thing. You can't just go to the doctor and like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
just
get
fix me like magic
fix me.
wand.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. And I feel like disability studies and disability justice and advocacy, I think, is sort of like the the actual frontier for people to really uh, grasp because it happens to everyone, sort of thing. I don't know. Does that make
Yeah, I
sense?
think it's true because also like when you think about people aging, for example, a lot of the worries
Exactly.
are
Yeah.
about actually the disabilities that are associated with aging, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so my next question is that we know that a lot of people are diagnosed with IBD as children and young adults. There's, of course, a lot of people also diagnosed later in life and things like that, but especially for young people, knowing what you know about Crohn's and colitis now, what advice would you give to someone with IBD who was trying to make friends? And also, like, what about to someone who has a friend with IBD, so someone in your position?
So for someone who's an adult trying to make friends or someone who's like,
Like a younger adult or
oh,
like
knowing that like that's when it usually happens.
yeah.
Huh. I'm not
I
sure I'm the
asked
best
Andrew this
person
question
to
specifically because he's an expert in making friends.
God. I'm not sure if I'm the best person to give advice to someone in that situation, but I think like all friendships, becoming open and vulnerable is the goal. But obviously you can't just jump into that, and especially with something like this, where there's some sensitivity around it
Mm,
and like a lot more vulnerability, which maybe we can get into a little bit. But like you're going to like need to build trust, and that's just something you have to do slowly. And no matter what, any sort of friendship, building trust, giving yourself the time to build trust, and understanding that you have a boundary and you have feelings and reactions for a very good reason.
mm.
So trust that and slowly build trust with another person is very important.
What
Uh,
about like on the receiving or like I don't know how to, but like if even if you're not the person with IBD, but
yeah,
you make a friend who you find out has IBD.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. Don't be weird about it, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
uh, like, let me see what I write down. Um, like I don't think I've ever like given you advice.
Mm.
Been like, oh, why didn't you do this? Why don't you do that? Have I ever done that?
I hope not. No.
I don't think so. Like,
I don't think I don't remember that.
I'm sure there's people who do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's because I don't have any confidence in my biology.
I think no, I like what you said about the trust piece.
Yeah,
Because I think it is like just about understanding where both sides of a friendship come from. And I think even people who don't know anything about diseases will often jump to like give solutions.
yeah,
And sometimes it's like it's not even from like a cruel place, it's just like they want to help you,
yeah,
but they don't really know your situation. So I think, and a lot of my closer friends, once they get to know my situation, they're like, oh yeah, I wouldn't really even be able to, like, your doctors are not able to advise you. Like, what am I gonna
exactly,
just jump in here with and be like, do
exactly.
things, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that's a pretty easy one. But then I also think, you know, don't like be patient and be understanding, be empathetic. I think I don't treat it like anything different than any friend.
Yeah.
People have
I do
problems.
I do remember, I don't know if this is like camera suitable, but it's just fun. I don't know, from time to time I still think about this. Uh
Cut this here.
no, but we're talking about being vulnerable. So it was just something funny that you had said a long time ago, which just surprised me. So this was during my sort of for sets of hospitalizations. Actually, I had many different like phases, right, where I was and you visited me for like many of them. But I remember towards the beginning, you were really hesitant to do that. And one day I was like, why won't you like, yeah, why wouldn't you come see me? Like that's so weird. And you're like, I don't want you to feel like I'm pitying you. And until that moment,
I don't even remember that.
you
That's
don't
so funny.
remember that?
No, but continue.
It was just really, I think it was the first time that I even considered that you would pity me. So it was just funny. And I was like, yeah, I wasn't gonna think that, Daniel. But I think it was good to have that conversation because after that, I think it like removed that like
Yeah,
weirdness about it.
that's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And
should
like
just,
for
yeah.
context, because people watching this don't know us, this was like very early on in my, so I did not have Crohn's before this was happening. And then I was
Right.
still going through the diagnosis, but we just didn't know what was happening. So it wasn't like Dan, it was like, oh, you have Crohn's, now I won't see you. It wasn't
No.
like that. It was just very uncertain during that time. But
Yeah. This
anyway,
is like
just
12, over 12 years ago, probably.
probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I was just young and like overthinking things, which, you
But I
know,
think that's exactly the kind of thing that
yeah,
happens at that
for sure.
stage in life on both occasions, right? Like I would
Yeah.
always wonder, what could I tell you or what should I be telling other friends? Is it weird? Am I making it weird?
Yeah.
Like what's even like jokes, like what's the boundary? Like are people comfortable with like, I don't know, missing gut jokes? Like
Yeah.
how to draw those lines, I think is so much more I had lots of gray zones, especially at that age, I think. Uh,
Gray zones. What's that?
Gray zones, like not black and white
Is
things.
this a term?
A gray zone? I
Yeah.
think so.
I've never heard of it. I like it.
You can fact check me later.
I have lots of gray zones.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
So, so kind of in line with that actually goes perfectly with my next question, which is, do you think IBD and chronic illness is an easy topic to discuss with family, friends, and loved ones? What about with strangers?
Um, yeah, and I don't know. I don't even know if I've done a good job of this. I don't think I have of like talking openly about these sorts of things. I feel like my approach has been, I'll let you sort of dictate the pace in those things, but I think also I should also maybe strive to create an open space, be like, hey, you can talk about this stuff. And you kind of have. You explained to me your sort of medical procedure and stuff and what you have to do for your stoma. But I
Mm,
think there is a lot of, I don't know about, is it stigma or like discomfort people have about anything related to the bathroom?
mm,
You know what I mean? And I think that's just very Freudian. People have a lot of hang-ups, you know?
yeah. I
So,
mean, but even beyond that, like even with IBD, like, there's so many other symptoms that happen that have nothing to do with the digestive system, right? Like joints are hurting or something. And even
that's
for other
true.
chronic illnesses. Um,
That's true.
so do you think even beyond like even if it wasn't a bathroom disease, like it was some other
Yeah.
condition, do you think it would still, is there
I,
just, or is it pretty
sorry,
easy?
go ahead.
I don't know. What is your experience like?
I don't know, to be honest, because I don't live with it, but I would imagine that it is hard to talk about being tired and being like uncomfortable, especially when it's like more often than the normal person, and you would probably like feel like you're being a nuisance or something to
Mm.
somebody. But I don't think, I'm happy if you want to flop on something. I love flopping. I
Yeah,
love
I think
canceling plans.
that's always helped because I think I was definitely more of a type A personality when I was younger. And I was like, if I
Mm.
make a plan, I want the plan to be carried out exactly.
Yeah,
And then of course I got Crohn's and then I realized, often um I can't plan for things or I can't plan for them exactly. And then I really start to appreciate the fact that like if I make a plan with you and then we cancel it, it's totally fine. There's
Yeah.
like no issue about it. And I was like, that's awesome because
Yeah. I
now
love it.
I need that flexibility. And it's like vice versa too, right? Like
Yeah.
if you have to, for whatever reason, cancel, I don't really mind. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's been that change in my attitude has helped me specifically a lot with our friendship.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Also some other friendships as well, but I think it's you kind of start to value like the
You
flexibility of those
appreciate the
things a lot.
type B's.
The type Bs.
Appreciate the type B's.
Okay, so last
But
question.
sorry, I do just want to quickly talk about the like the bathroom stuff. Like, I don't
Yes.
know. Is that, do you experience that? That people aren't
Um,
comfortable about that stuff?
I think I'm more comfortable talking about it than I see other people
Right.
listening about it. And I think it's because like I'm living through it, so I don't know. It's like maybe I just have a high self-esteem when it comes to these things. Like it doesn't bother me as much.
Yeah.
But I do censor myself more because I sense that some people just don't know how to react.
Yeah.
So I kind of like titrate based on who I'm talking to. I'm definitely more open with some people. Um, like Iram and I, we make like IBD jokes all the time. But
Hmm.
I'm not going to do that with somebody who's a little bit more sensitive or maybe just not as comfortable yet with me. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I want to make stoma jokes.
You want to make stoma jokes? You don't know anything about stomas.
I
Know your
know.
material, man.
That's true. Someday.
All
What
right.
was your last question?
My last question is, drawing from your personal experience, what do you think would make it easier to have these conversations and support people through chronic illnesses like IBD or even other ones that you might be more familiar with? And then were there any resources, sources of support, or anything else that helped you navigate just, being there for someone with IBD?
I feel like I gotta come at it from like maybe a male angle. Or, not even a male angle, but just my own personal angle, which is like I was never a phone talker. It's never someone who liked talking on the phone. But I think we talked a lot on the phone, like in like undergrad times, you know? I think that was something we used to do. I remember like there are like distressful times where I would call you. And that wasn't something I used to really do. It wasn't like a way that I socialized with people. But I think that was like a great, way to talk with someone who can't, hang out all the time or see you in person, you know?
Hmm.
So a phone is great as a resource. And then also, I think just growing up and learning more about disability justice and disability ideas and how actually I can relate to some of these things in my own ways. Not that I have a disability necessarily, but just that like these are universal things. Like everyone has ups and downs. Everyone is going to experience these things in different ways, and you know, shaming ourselves and shaming other people for not living up to certain expectations that are set by who. It's not even like us who are really setting some of these expectations. Um, it's not helpful. So I think I had to learn a lot of that stuff. Because I remember even when you were telling me the spoon stuff in like high school or like early undergrad, I was thinking to myself, like, what is that? Spoons? I think I was like a little like, whatever. But like I really get it now. So I think a lot of learning about those things
Yeah.
has helped. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was also never really a phone person. Just something about someone talking on the phone. You have no visual cues. I think it's harder to like
Yeah.
really engage in that conversation. But yeah, I remember the time you're talking about because it was just I think it's towards the end of undergrad and I was just in the hospital a lot. Um,
Hmm.
so it was like a good way to like have company when you're like hospitalized. And also because we mentioned it a few times now, so for people who are listening and might not know what the spoon stuff is, just
Oh
very
yeah.
briefly, um, the spoon theory became popular on the internet several years ago now, and essentially was a way of that one disabled person or like chronically ill person was describing energy levels to her friend. So they were sitting at a restaurant, just trying to explain, like, I have a finite amount of energy, like the finite number of spoons on the table, and every task takes up a spoon. And so even things like getting up or getting dressed can take up a spoon, or sometimes the spoons are for bigger activities, but there's only so many. And so somebody with a chronic illness, or disability has to really think about how they're going to use up their energy for a day. I don't think it's a perfect analogy, of course. There might be better ones now, especially. But it was a good way to start thinking about that. And the chronically ill community on the internet would then call themselves like spoonies. So I think that's still like something that's done from time to time. So anyway, I think this is one of like just what we were talking about back then.
Hmm.
And now we know that, yeah, like energy levels can really vary. And especially with COVID, when people had like brain fog and all of these like hits to their energy, it kind of became really clear that, yeah, like we really need to, when we're ill, really need to protect that energy. And it's so important for feeling better, right? And resetting. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the spoon theory. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
And
no,
yeah,
yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and there's like, um, there shouldn't be any shame attached to like how much you are able to do in a day or something. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
it's taken me a long time to give myself that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Because
think
I
we're
think
just
I've
at
been
a
stuck
constant
in like,
diet, right?
yeah,
This constant diet of like be productive and like
exactly.
what did you achieve today? Um,
Yeah.
the hustle.
Yeah. And that makes it hard to be understanding for other people, I think. So,
Yeah, and for yourself, I think it's
yeah.
so internalized. It's
Yeah.
like, am I being useful? Am I being productive? How much money am I making right now?
Exactly.
And the thing is like, sure, that's great, but like if your health is not well or like mentally, physically, whatever, um, your priority cannot be like productivity, right? So,
Yeah.
um, no, but thank you so much for sharing all of your thoughts on these questions. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up?
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you.
I would never even have thought myself as a caregiver, but because that term feels so like weighty and serious. But I give care, so
You
that's
do
true.
give care. Yeah, you're part of my support network. I'm part of your support network too. So if you
Yeah,
ever want to do one
exactly.
of these yourself, you can.
Yeah, that's
I'm just
true.
saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm very thankful for all the care you've given through the years. So thank
Thank
you,
you.
Nanu.
You as well.
Yeah. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this caregiver conversation and learned something that might help you or a friend or a family member. Yeah. Ciao.
Bye bye.